Hello guys, happy Easter Saturday and welcome back to my channel. Today is a pretty easy chill video. We're just going to do a March wrap up. I read a lot more books than I thought, and yet I still didn't read all the books on my TBR. Towards the end of the month I just started picking shit off of my shelves, and this is what we ended up with. DNF'd 3 books as well. We're going to get into all of that fun stuff. So let's go. So the first book I read this month was actually a DNF. It was called It's Not Hysteria. I tried reading this specifically for a Goodreads Achievement Award, and I just wasn't that interested. Not my vibe. Didn't like the way it was written. It was very clinical to me, so I ended up DNFing it probably at literally the 5% mark. Was not the book for me. But the next book I read is one that I finished. It was quite a short little book. This is actually one I only got in February because my mum bought this for my birthday. It is Paradise Rot by Jenny Havel. This is just a weird little sort of fever dream horror about a woman who moves into this decrepit, dank, dusty, moist factory with another girl because she's in a new country to go to university, and it's just a bit of a bizarre story. There is a lot of imagery of rotting fruit, and she has this kind of obsession with her roommate, but the things that happen between them, are they actually happening? Are they just part of this hallucination hysteria that's happening? It was a very interesting book. I don't know if I would recommend it. I kind of enjoyed it, but I don't think most people would enjoy it, so I'm not sure about that one. Next, I read The Midnight Timetable by Bora Chung. So this is her latest release. I have read all of Bora Chung's published works, and genuinely this might be my favorite so far. So technically this is a short story collection. It is, I think, 8 short stories, but each story is told within the context of the institute. So we're following the point of view of someone who has just started at the institute, and she's hearing all these stories from the person training her. The institute is basically just a hub of bizarre, weird things that can't quite be explained, like paranormal things and alien things and things that just aren't quite normal. They are kept at this institute, and yeah, each of these stories follows an employee of the institute and what specific thing they've dealt with. It was a very, very fun collection. I really enjoyed this. I would read more stories set at this institute, so I really liked it. I would highly recommend. Next, I read Dare I Say It by Naomi Watts. Now, this is the book I actually read for that Goodreads Achievement Award that I was talking about earlier. This talks about going through menopause early. I don't know what it's called. I don't remember. But yeah, Naomi Watts, I think she was, 35 when she started going through menopause, and as a woman, she had never really been told the symptoms and the things you experience going through menopause, and because she was going through it so young, she just kind of felt wrong. It was a very interesting non-fiction. I did learn quite a bit, and I did like the writing style. It was very easy for me to pick up. I can see how it would be really helpful to a lot of women going through menopause, especially so young, when that menopause has this stigma of old lady. And yeah, it was a very interesting book. I would highly suggest it if you are interested in that sort of thing. Next, I read Do You Remember by Miss Frida McFadden. I got the audiobook from my library. It was fun. It was typical Frida, but despite what people want to believe and will not agree with, her writing has gotten better over the years, because I could definitely tell this was one of her earlier books. It almost had a juvenile writing style, if that makes sense. The plot was interesting. It was fun. It was twisty. This book follows a woman who wakes up the day after her boyfriend has proposed to her, except 10 years have passed, and she's now married to someone entirely different, and she does not remember the last 10 years of her life. She remembers yesterday being the day she was proposed to by a different man. And it's a whole, can she trust her husband? Is he really looking out for her best interests? She's getting text messages from an unknown number on her phone. Weird stuff is happening, and she's trying to figure out if her husband is lying to her or telling her the truth about the last 10 years of her life. It was a really interesting book. Not a new concept, but it was just fun. But yeah, you can definitely tell that it was old Frida, because there were sometimes the writing choices, the sentences, the language used, I was this reads very dated, but I still enjoyed it. I would recommend, if you are a Frida fan, or if you have some sort of interest in reading her entire backlog, this one I think is a win. Next, I picked up Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This is the second book in the Walker sibling series, and this was adorable. So we are following the youngest sibling, Annie, who is quite babied and infantilized by her older siblings. And in this one, she kind of strikes a deal with the bodyguard from the first book. We're let's not get into the entire series. But she strikes up this deal with a bodyguard to basically like practice dating her, get her more comfortable to go on dates in the real world, because she has got like no positive experiences from dating currently, and she thinks that the problem lies with her. Very typically fake dating turned real dating trope. Very cute. Highly recommend. I really, really love this series. Next, I picked up Cursed Bread by Sophie McIntosh. This is another recent purchase. This book was very like fever dream hallucination, but in an entirely different way than Paradise Row, because this one made sense to me. This follows a couple, a baker and his wife in a small French town, and one day an American couple moves to town and just shakes shit up. Like, everyone is obsessed and paranoid and scared and intrigued by this new American couple, but our main character, the baker's wife, she's sort of infiltrating their lives. She sort of becomes friends with the wife and becomes attracted to the husband, and shit gets weird. But I really, really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really well written. It was so poetically written. It was beautiful. Like, we're watching our main character walk down the road, and I was like, holy shit, it is beautiful the way that she's walking down that road. So I really loved it. It is a very, very short book, and I'm considering checking out more of Sophie McIntosh's work because the writing was so beautiful. Next, I read The Wife Upstairs by Miss Frida McFadden. Now, if you guys can't tell, I am trying to read Frida's entire backlog, because I was only like a couple of books away from having read everything she published. Not that I need to read everything that she's ever published, but there's like a little part of my brain that likes ticking off all the boxes. So I picked up this one next. Now, I definitely understand that this has been compared to Verity a lot. I 100% understand that opinion. It was basically like reading Verity for a second time, except not as well written, which is crazy to say because Verity isn't like the best written book, but this was not as well written as Verity. Kind of very similar startup. We are following a woman who is a carer, okay? She is given this new job where she is to take care of this man's wife. She's not like comatose. She can sometimes talk, like she does manage to get some words out. And very similarly, our main character stumbles across her patient's diary where she's written about some stuff. And yeah, she basically has written her diary about how she met her husband. And in the style of Verity, it is very much like, oh, can we trust what this woman's writing in her diary is true? And our main character is kind of trying to discover the truth behind this relationship. And obviously murders and disappearances and all that sort of fun stuff gets mixed in as well. But yeah, like I said, I think I actually did prefer Verity. I also didn't like, I don't know if you guys, if everyone else has kind of like clocked this. Usually Frida, she has her book, right? She writes the book, she has reveals, she has twists, and usually in the epilogue, she will throw in like a last jab, one little last reveal or plot twist, just to like end the book on a plot twist moment. I did not enjoy the epilogue in this book because the little like plot twist thrown in at the end was so like, we didn't need that at all. We absolutely didn't need that. It answered a question that no one was asking. But yeah, I think I gave it a 3-star. Like, it was a fun time. But I wouldn't recommend everyone go and read it because it's going to change their lives. You know, I picked up Dead Men by Frida McFadden from my library. And this book was not the vibe, guys. I don't know if this was Frida's like first published book. I think chronologically it might be the first book she like fully independently published, maybe. This book was just so terrible. I think it was originally published as Suicide Med. I think they've just rebranded it as Dead Med. Guys, this book was not good. I don't even know what percentage I got up to. I think I probably got like 15% of the way through this book. It was written so terribly. The characters all felt like caricatures of real people. And I think the whole setup of this plot is that like, it's set at a hospital, okay? Or like a university where, a medical school, basically. And every year, some of the students commit suicide because the thing is that they steal drugs. And they do drugs, and then they kill themselves. And it just felt so fucking ridiculous. Like, as a elevator pitch, oh, it's a book about people that steal drugs and commit suicide. Like, it just sounded so stupid. I tried to give it a chance, but I got to, like the 15% mark, and I realized I do not care about any of these characters, like even remotely. I don't care about what they're going through. I don't care about what they're thinking. I just did not give a single shit. So I returned that to the library. And what's the other book she has? I don't remember, but I'll pop it here if I remember to do that. I also had that audiobook from my library, and I didn't even start it. I was like, I'm over Frida. Like, I need to stop reading the Frida McFadden books this month. So yeah, that's what happened with that. Next, I picked up the sequel, to Practice Makes Perfect. So I read Beg, Burr, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This follows Emily. Emily is the sibling that is like harsh. She's quite severe. She's overprotective of her siblings, and this follows her and her mortal enemy. So he's a co-worker. They both work at the same school. He leaves the school to go get married, and, you know, she thinks, damn, I'm actually going to miss Alberta. I'm going to miss our back and forth. But lo and behold, he moves back into town because the marriage thing didn't work out for him. He moves in next door next to Emily, and what starts as, like, neighbors that hate each other and prank each other and try and get on each other's nerves becomes two people that definitely rely on each other for more than just bickering, and it becomes emotional, and it was really beautiful. This was my favorite book in the series so far. There's still one more that I have yet to read, but I really, really love this series, so highly recommend. I think for the most part these aren't too explicit either. They are quite tame compared to most romance books out there, so that's just another like thing that if that's what you're looking for, this is what you will find. Then I picked up The Woman Dies by Ayako Matsuda. So this is a translated short story collection. There are 52 short stories in here, so it is quite a little collection. Now, fun story, I actually read most of this book when I was at work. I had a couple of really slow weeks in March, so I would just pull up the PDF on my computer and read through these short stories. Now, the overall vibe of this collection is misogyny and how women are treated in Japan. There were so many really fun stories in this. It's really hard to review short story collections, but some of my higher rated ones, I've got Bond, God Must Be Stupid, The Woman Dies, Victoria's Secret, To You, Sleeping in an Armory, CV, 21st Century Tinkerbell, Reflection, A Father and His Back, Youth and Sadness, Betty Davis, A Magic Spell. Now, technically some of these like short stories are just a couple of sentences, but some of the other short stories are like 20 pages long. So it's a variety of lengths, a variety of like situations. Like some are set in a dystopian future, some are set current day, some are set in the past. Very interesting, diverse collection, and I really loved it, and I really love this cover, and I'm so glad that I picked this up on a whim at QVT. Next, we read There Is No Anti-Memetics Division by Quantum. This was kind of a recommendation from my brother. I enjoy the creepypasta world, right? And love Creepcast, love Wendigoon, love Papa Mate. So yeah, this kind of just felt like something that I would enjoy. Unfortunately, my friends, the first 50% of this book I loved. I was on board. We learn about the Anti-Memetics Division and the institute that all this stuff is happening, very similar to Midnight Timetable in that sense. But where I think this book failed is that it kind of felt like the first half was just like little short stories about things and these creatures that people at the institute have interacted with at some point. And then at the halfway mark, it decides to become a proper story. And the entire last half of the book is a chronological, straightforward story. Which I didn't love because it just kind of felt like we were getting fun little tidbits about all these different creatures and all these different unknowns and how they affect people. And then it just very quickly became just a story about the end of the world. And I didn't love the second half, I'll be completely honest with you. I still think this book is really cool. I'm going to hold on to it for now, but if the first half was a 5-star, the second half was a 2-star. So I'm not sure, but it'll stay on my shelves for the current time. Next, I read Before She Knew Him by Peter Swenson. This is one of his older books, and for some reason I just never got to it, and it is really fun. We follow a couple who's just moved onto a new street. They go to their neighbor's house for dinner, and as soon as the wife of the new couple enters this man's study, she clocks him and she goes, "He's a murderer." That's all you really need to know. She knows, she is 100% convinced that her next door neighbor is a murderer because there's something in his study that is connected to an unsolved murder case. And I really enjoyed this. It was so weird, but the friendship between our FMC and MMC. It was a very interesting friendship. There is a twist in this that I think is probably overdone at this point in time, but I wasn't expecting it, so I still really enjoyed it. I would highly, highly recommend. And the last one from this stack is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. This is a book written by a psychotherapist and how she learns from her patients, but how she herself also needed to go see a therapist and how she learned from her therapist. It was all about how personal growth, therapy, talking, how all of that is really, really important for mental health. I really enjoyed this. It definitely did genuinely make me want to start going to therapy. However, therapy is very fucking expensive and I can't afford it. Genuinely, like, it just doesn't fit within my budget. But this was a really, really interesting read. I actually enjoyed it. It is quite a long book. It is quite a thick, chunky boy, but I enjoyed it regardless, so I would highly recommend. The next book I picked up is Two Can Play by Ellie Hazelwood. Now, I've had the audiobook for this since it came out, and then recently the paperback was published, so I decided it was time to read this. This was really fun, really cute, classic Ellie Hazelwood, where they both think the other person hates them because they've overheard or misinterpreted something. Really, really enjoyed this. It is video game centric, about two video game companies having to come together to produce a new game that is very important to both our main characters because it's based on like their childhood fantasy book series. Overall, super cute story, very, very short, but if you just need a quick one-shot sort of romance, this is the one to go with. I probably gave this 5 stars. Then I read a book that really did determine something for me. So I picked up Heartless by Elsie Silver. This follows the grumpy Eaton brother and how he's searching for a nanny. FMC from the first book's best friend ends up being his nanny, and he's grumpy and an old grumpy man, and she's younger and she's fun and she's fresh and she's a great babysitter. And romance. Now, this book has been the deciding factor for me. I am going to stop reading this series. This was a lot better than Flawless. I think this book was definitely a step up, but I still don't want to keep this on my shelves. Am I really going to sit through 3 more books just to finish the series and then go, oh, they were good? I don't want them on my shelves. I'm not doing that anymore. And because of some other like book ban or like book buying rules that I've set for myself, it is in my best interest to get rid of these books. So, liked this book. If you like cowboy romances, you'll like it. If you like Elsie Silver, you'll like it. I did not like it enough to keep it on my shelves. And also, I don't understand. Can we just talk for 2 seconds? Everyone talks about Elsie Silver like she is the second coming of Jesus, okay? I think Elsie Silver, her writing style, her characters, character growth, literally is on par with Freida McFadden. That's not meant as an insult, but I'm like, there are certain authors whose writing is just better. Like, you know, Donna Tartt, for example, Hanya Yanagihara, another example. There are just some authors I love that I look at my shelves and I think they are genuinely good writers. And then you've got like the Elsie Silvers and the Colin Hoovers and the Freida McFaddens, where like, yes, they're fun, they're quick, we love them, but like, do they deserve to be on our shelves? I just feel like I've heard everyone rave about how amazing Elsie Silver's Chestnut Spring series is. I'm on some buy swap sell groups on Facebook for books. Everyone goes so hard for Elsie Silver. I don't understand it. So, these books will be leaving my shelves and my life, and I'm done with that series. Even though, as I said before, I do like ticking off every box. I'm just going to leave that series. I don't think I need it in my life. Next, I picked up A Beautiful Lack of Consequence. This is another short story collection that all surrounds women, how they are treated and what they experience, and this book was an absolute win. I think this short story collection is very comparable to how I felt reading Out There by Kate Folk. Like, it is top tier. Again, hard to review a short story collection, but the first story, Soul Badges, was just a massive allegory for pregnancy and motherhood. Real mothers, brave young thing, fresh meat, woman on the internet, a woman walks into a bar, the hag, the pain scale, man in a can was pretty good. Hospitality, I only gave it a 3.5 star. It's a short story about a woman who works at a bar and how one female customer is like, you're too young to work here. You're too young, you're too innocent. Like, how are you supposed to deal with like crazy drunk men? And then crazy drunk man comes in and I felt the fear. I don't know how many times I've mentioned this on this channel. I used to work at basically like the Victorian DMV. it was scary sometimes. Like, there were multiple times we had to call the police on customers. It was scary, and reading that short story, honestly, not triggered me, but it definitely took me back to that place of being like a fucking deer in headlights. Like, don't make sudden movements, don't raise your voice, be apologetic, be smiling and accommodating and placating, and try and bring them down from the edge. And that short story just was that entire vibe. Highly, highly recommend, especially if you've lived. If you're a girl, if you're a woman who has lived on this planet, I think there is at least one short story in this that is going to be relevant to you. Next, I picked up You Must Not Miss by Katrina Leno. This is a book that I've had on my shelves genuinely for so fucking long that I thought it is time to read it. If I do not read it this month, it is just going to go. So I did read it, and it is still going to go. Yes. So this book is about our main character, Magpie. Magpie has like genuinely a really shit life. Like, her life is just nothing but misery. She's got an alcoholic mother. Her father is a cheater and he's moved out. Her older sister can't take the mom's alcohol abuse, so she's moved off. Magpie's best friend hates her. Most of the school hates her and calls her a slut. And the only solace she really has at the start of this book is this make-believe world called Neo. And she just furiously writes in her journal about Neo. It is like almost exactly like her hometown, except everything is nice there. There are no people, and if there are people, they only want the best for her, and it is always sunny. And she writes this world, and one day she sees a light on in her shed, and she steps into this world that she's created. The book kind of really takes off from there, because she's not sure if she's hallucinating every time she walks into a shed, if she just so happened to write about a world that already existed, or if she created it herself. And ultimately is about her getting revenge on all the people that have led to her life being so miserable. It was dark, it was gritty, but it just really wasn't for me. So this is actually getting donated to a charity shop next to my house. I enjoyed my time with it, but I'm glad that I've read it so it can move swiftly along. Next, I picked up Three Women by Lisa Taddeo. So I loved Animal by Lisa Taddeo. Now, this is actually a nonfiction. This nonfiction follows three women, and I think the overall theme is sexual desire. Well, general desire, but more specifically sexual desire from both men and women. So the three women in this, we follow one who had a sexual relationship with a teacher when she was in high school, and what happens when she realizes how wrong that situation was. We follow another woman who reconnects with her high school boyfriend, and they are both cheating by having this affair. And then the last woman is a wife and mother who partakes in extramarital sexual activities with her husband's blessing. He encourages it. He likes knowing his wife is with other people, and they're kind of dynamic, and goes into all the things that arise from their open marriage. It was really interesting, but there were definitely, I'm not going to say what and who, but there was definitely one woman who I was most interested in. So every time we went to a different woman's story, I got a little bit bored. Overall, I still really enjoyed it. I think this is a very important book. I think it is a book that will make you very angry. But yeah, it definitely read as a fiction. I don't know if that's like a good thing or bad thing. To me, it's just like what it is. It read very fiction. And it's because Lisa Taddeo, I think she's like 8 years of research for this book. So I definitely appreciated that, but you can read it and tell me what you think. Next, I read a YA book that I bought spur of the moment because it was on sale at QBD. Didn't think I was going to enjoy this book at all. I ended up loving this book. I gave it 5 stars. I think it might be my favourite book of the month. It is called Completely Normal and Other Lies by Biffy James. This is an Australian YA that follows our main character, Stella. Stella is very depressed. Her dad has basically abandoned her family, moved countries with his new wife, and now has a new kid. And Stella's friendship group is very like, she doesn't really like her friends, which I think is very common for teenage girls. Like, for me it was. But yeah, she doesn't really like her friends, and she has just been broken up with, or just ended a relationship with an older man. Very, very predatory, FYI. And she is put into therapy by her mum. And when she starts leaving her therapy sessions, she starts seeing the most popular guy at her school, Isaac, and they start walking home together and starting this really beautiful friendship / relationship. The problem is that Isaac has a girlfriend. And you know this going into the book, and you know this within the first chapter, but this book basically follows Stella and Isaac's budding relationship and what happens after Isaac dies. Because the one good thing in Stella's life is killed and taken away from her. And it also follows her and her friendship with Isaac's actual girlfriend, Grace. It was a very interesting book. There was one moment towards the end where I genuinely started tearing up because I was so emotional. Like, there is a lot in this book that I related to. I highly recommend it. 5 stars. It wasn't like a quick read, but the amount of emotion and impact this book packs into such a tiny little package, like, genuinely, I highly recommend this book. I really, really enjoyed it. Next, I started reading Darling by Kay Ingram. Funny story, I read the first 2 chapters. I was very unimpressed. I went on Goodreads. Everyone was saying there was like a massive plot twist and it was one of the best plot twists ever. So I wanted to know what the plot twist was without having to read the whole book. Read what the plot twist was and I was like, that is a good plot twist. And then I continued to read the book and I gave it 4 stars. So, spoiled the book for myself, but if I hadn't have spoiled the book for myself, I wouldn't have read the book in the first place. What I'm saying is, I really enjoyed the twist in this. I think it was very fun, interesting, disturbing, genuinely made me feel a little bit sick to my stomach, but very well done. This book, Darling, is a Peter Pan reimagining. We're following Wendy Darling, who has just moved to Chicago. Her mum is very scared for her, very overprotective, because her mum had some rough times in Chicago. And one night, Wendy's in bed, she's been grounded, and a boy named Peter crawls through her window and says, I'm going to take you to a party tonight. Let's hang out. I'm going to get you to meet my friends. My friends are all cool. We're like family. Like, all my brothers live with me. And my friend Tinkerbell is downstairs. So, like, sorry for breaking into your window. Kind of. Not really. He's not actually sorry. But get dressed. Like, let's go to a fucking party. And Wendy's excited. And she's like, cool. I get to be out of the house. I'm with a cute boy. But then things get a bit weird. Because it seems like everywhere she turns, there are police. And everyone seems to be really interested in what Peter's up to, and all of Peter's friends are very, like, scared of him. It's very fun. I really, really enjoyed this book. Highly recommend. I think it is just, how do I explain what this kind of reimagining does to my soul? It makes me so happy that we didn't have what would be, like, a very typical reimagining of Peter Pan. So, I mean, it wasn't typical for me. Maybe some people will see everything in this book coming from a mile away, but I loved this book. I'm so glad that I spoiled it for myself. Genuinely. Next, I have got an Alice Feeney book. Now, I decided this year was the year I was going to catch up on all of Alice Feeney's books. I only have one left, and that is her newest release. So, I did read Good Bad Girl this month. Well, I read this in March. I'm thinking in April I'm going to read her newest release. Anyways, unfortunately, this book wasn't a hit for me. Out of all the Alice Feeney books I've read, there have only been 2 that have just felt like average run-of-the-mill thrillers. This is one of them. The other is His and Hers. This follows a bunch of women, a bunch of mothers and daughters, and how their relationships came to be. Now, the tagline of this says what? 3 suspects, 2 murders, 1 victim. Yeah. How do I explain this book? Because it's so difficult, because there's like 10 things happening at once, but none of them are important. So we're following, basically 2 sets of mothers and daughters. And they all know each other, but they don't all realize how they're connected. Someone is murdered. A manager of a care home is murdered, where the daughter from one pairing works and the mother from the other pairing lives. They're friends. And it's just a whole hot mess. And I don't know what I can say that isn't going to spoil some of the things you find out in this book. So I'm not going to say any of that. All I'm going to say is, not the best Alice Feeney. I wouldn't recommend it. I think if you've never read a thriller before, or this wasn't even a thriller. To me, it read so much more as just a standard mystery. Like, there wasn't a lot of thrilling things. There wasn't like any crazy twists that blew my mind. I genuinely wouldn't recommend this. If you are like me and want to read all of Alice Feeney's books, I mean, do it. But to me, this was a bit of a disappointment, and I haven't decided if I'm going to keep it or not. I'm going to keep it for now, but I don't think it's going to be on my shelves for that long. Sometimes I need to, like, come to terms with the loss, you know? Next, I read Strange Houses by Yuketsu. I mean, first of all, like, this cover, the pink and the blue, beautiful. This book I was always interested in picking up because I like books that are more than just words. I like pictures, I like diagrams. I like newspaper articles and interviews and all that sort of stuff. So knowing that this had little diagrams and house plans, very exciting to me. This book follows our main character slash narrator Yuketsu. And one of his friends says, hey, I'm really interested in buying this house. What would you recommend? So Yuketsu looks at these house plans and he thinks that like something about this house is a bit weird. So he forwards the plans to one of his architectural friends, and the friend notices a lot of things that are very strange about this house, like rooms that don't have windows, rooms that don't have doors, like just strange things about the actual floor plan of this house. And it gets a bit crazy from there. I will say I didn't find the solution, the answer to all these questions very satisfying, but it was a really fun ride. There are 2 other books in this series so far. I will hopefully read at least one of them today. But they're just fun. They're very like r/no sleep with like a sprinkle of what I imagine House of Leaves is going to be like, you know? So love this book, keeping it on my shelves. Next, I tried reading Welcome to Night Vale. Actually, I don't know why I'm saying I tried to read. I have the book still in my room. It's in one of my bags to donate to the charity shop. Welcome to Night Vale is maybe one of my favorite podcast series of all time. I mean, I've got my Cecil prayer candle, right? Night Vale Community Radio. I love Welcome to Night Vale. I've been listening to Night Vale on and off since I was 16 or 17 years old, and I'm now 30. So I have loved Night Vale for a very, very long time. I think I first started listening to it when there was only like 2 or 3 episodes uploaded. Love Night Vale. Have the script books, have the Night Vale roleplay game. Love Night Vale. The book, the novel, Welcome to Night Vale, was just not my vibe. I got 100 and some pages in, and I said to my brother, like, I genuinely don't know if I can keep reading this, because there wasn't a plot. Like, in each episode of Night Vale, which is, I should explain, a fictional radio show. There's one episode every 2 weeks, and our main character is Cecil, the radio show host. And this is a town where strange shit happens. I've heard it compared to like Twin Peaks. I've heard some people compare it to like Black Mirror and some of the things that happen. Just like, yeah, very like strange, supernatural, paranormal, sciencey, like weird stuff happens in this town. It's very, very cool. I would recommend listening to like at least the first 2 or 3 episodes to get a real feel for Night Vale as a town. What happens in the Night Vale podcast episodes is that Cecil introduces the show. He'll say like 1 or 2 sentences about the breaking news in the town, goes into the weather, goes into traffic, like he doesn't really go into the weather anyway, but he goes into different segments that slowly reveal more and more of the town. There's usually per season an overarching plot, so every episode he might spend a minute or 2 giving you an update on that strange thing that's been happening in the town, but there is a plot. There is always a start point, an end point. There is always progression. 100 pages into this book, and I didn't know what the plot was except for the man wearing the tan jacket. But the man with the tan jacket was already something that happened on the podcast, so it was very frustrating for me to revisit it in the book. I sound really harsh right now. It was such a disappointing read that 100 pages in, nothing was really happening. Nothing was actually happening. It felt like it felt like a Night Vale podcast episode, but expanded to 400 pages. And I didn't love it. I think the podcast episodes are perfect length. They do not need to be 400 pages long. So I am unhauling that book. I DNF'd it at, like I said, I think it was about 26 or 27% of the way through. Unhauling that, and I'm also unhauling the other 2 books. The other 2 novels, I should say. It Devours and The Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home, or whatever that title is. They are both also getting unhauled. I just can't be bothered, you know. And lucky last, the last book I finished in the month of March is Why I Love Horror. This is an essay collection based on horror. Why different horror authors, quite popular authors I should say as well, why they love horror, why they started writing it, or why they started watching it, whether it was because watching horror movies made them feel alive, or if it was because the things in horror movies weren't as scary as things that were happening to them in real life. There were a whole different bunch of reasons as to why these authors got into writing horror books, but there were definitely some very, very prolific horror authors in this essay collection. I really enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I just don't think essay collections are books that I want to buy and have on my shelves forever, but for the most part, it was very interesting to hear how some of these authors react to horror in their personal lives. Like, some of them genuinely cannot watch horror movies, but for some reason love writing them. It was just very, very, it's interesting. And that was the month of March. I read a lot. I feel like I've been talking a lot. but it is like probably time for me to have lunch. So I'm going to go make some lunch, figure out what book I'm reading next. I have just finished a book this morning. So I hope you guys had a very successful March as far as your reading goals and any new books you may have purchased. I don't know if I should do a whole separate video for some of the book buying rules I've set for myself for the second quarter of the year. I probably should at some point. But anyway, that is all for today. Have an amazing Easter weekend.